remember saying something about the classic rock period of hip hop? Does that ring any bells?
Yeah. That sounds vaguely. That's a memory.
Go ahead.
It's possible that may have been like some sort of offhanded comment that I made, or it could have been someone else, but I do vaguely remember us having a conversation like this.
Yeah, I think you said it completely in passing, but it caught my ear and I wrote it down, and we're going to close the loop tonight. This is going to be the intro. Welcome, listeners, to Dat Fury Radio. I'm Howie Howard from Mr. Furious Records, joined once again by my friend Ebony Simon, a.k.a. Lefty Grove, a.k.a. producer Giniss. And
cheers.
Cheers. We've got an exploration, I'll call it, tonight. And this is, as you heard, this is based on, I think, something Ebony said about hip-hop having a classic rock period. Also, I've been watching a bunch of videos by this YouTuber, FD Signifier, who talks about a lot of music and culture stuff. And I forget in which specific video he said this. I think it might have been the Eminem and the problem with white rappers video. But he called the current period of hip-hop, whenever he made that video, which was recent, within the past 2 or 3 years, I think, he called the current period of hip-hop equivalent to hair metal. And these two statements by you and FD Signifier jumbled around in my mind. And I took a few minutes and did this thing. And what I've done, and listeners, if you're on YouTube, or if you want to jump over to YouTube, I'm going to share this thing we're going to talk about in a second. What I did is I did some timelines for rock and for hip hop every 5 years, just sampling a few of the big songs and albums that would like trigger that era for me. This is a personal, it's not an objective list or anything like that. But I lined them up based on kind of when the genres started. So you'll see this in a second, but I'm calling, and this is debatable, of course. This is just an illustration, but I think there's something to it. I'm calling year 0 of rock 1951 with the release of Rocket 88 by Jackie Brenston, Ike Turner, and the Kings of Rhythm. So that's year 0 for rock for the purposes of this short conversation.
Okay.
Hip-hop's a little easier. We just kind of did Hip Hop 50. I'm calling it 1973 with DJ Kool Herc and Cindy Campbell's Back to School Party. Widely recognized as the birth of hip-hop. So what I've done with those two dates is line them up so they're equal. That's year 0. And then I've got year 5, year 10, relative to those start dates.
Okay.
So that we can see if there's parallels in the development of the genres based on their age, sort of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And we're just going to look at this and comment, and I don't have a question necessarily, but I just thought this was an interesting exercise. So there you see at the top, if you're on YouTube, the year 0, 51 for rock, Rocket 88, 73 for hip hop, Back to School Party. Okay, so what's happening in year 5? And again, I just made some subjective picks that for me, for the music that I know, kind of evoked that year for me, right?
Yeah.
So year 5 in rock, I've got Hound Dog by Elvis Presley, Blue Suede Shoes by Carl Perkins. So very much still in kind of the R&B, rockabilly type of thing. Year 5 for hip-hop would be 78. They really didn't have recordings yet. But kind of in that... So 79 is Rapper's Delight, Sugar Hill Gang. 1980, which would be year 7 in this through this lens. The Breaks by Curtis Blow, Body Rock by the Treacherous Three. So, start of the old school, basically, right?
Yeah.
You with me so far? Anything jump out?
Crazy enough, the one thing that jumps out to me is the year 5 section. You have like Hound Dog and Blue Suede Shoes from Elvis and Carl Perkins. I think the hip hop equivalent for that at that time would be Rapture from Blondie. Mainly just because it's pretty much like the first besides Rapper's Delight, it's like the first mainstream rap album or song that I ever really heard. My dad absolutely does not like hip hop. Like, he don't like rap music at all. My mom is cool with it. She's a little bit younger, so she's kind of more hip with it, but it's not her thing either. But Blondie was like the first time, besides Rapper's Delight and the Breaks from Curtis Blow, where it was just like, well, we're not going to switch the radio because this is on. Or we're not going to make you turn off MTV because this video is playing. So I really, that's about the only thing from the year 5 era that really kind of sticks out.
I can almost see kind of a generational thing going on there too. That parallels rock and how the older generation felt about rock and roll. Yeah.
Definitely like the 70s rock and like yacht rock and all that good stuff going on versus like the 80s hair metal and thrash coming up. You know, that's kind of the hip hop version of what was going on then. Everybody was going from like doo-wop groups and solo R&B artists to like these guys that were talking, but they weren't singing, and they were doing stuff over songs we already heard before. So what are they doing this noise for? Kind of thing, where like the generational clash was again between, you know, parents and children, but older Gen X and younger Gen X also kind of had that split too. So I get it though.
Yeah. So year 10, on the rock side, I've got, that'd be 1961. I've got Please Mr. Postman by the Marvelettes, Stand By Me by Ben E. King, one of my personal favorite songs ever.
Both great songs.
Both great songs, absolutely. And I think you can start to see there's a real level of compositional development happening here, right? Where the complexity and the nuance is getting increased.
Yeah, year 10 is when like both of those comparative genres and eras, the writing started to be a bit more original and meticulous with the music and the lyrics. It wasn't just, you know, the standard doo-wop albums that you were hearing back in the day, you know, by the Spinners or anything like that. It was more like, oh, now we have women that can do this as well. And then we have solo artists who can do these things as well. So it ends up being a beautiful thing in the 50s going into the 60s that leads into it. And then you get deep into the 80s and disco's over, but we still have disco artists and they're now doing hip hop, you know, because it all comes from that particular area of music when it comes to them. But, you know, Planet Rock is an original beat, or at least it's a different version of originality, because that's basically, you know, just a Kraftwerk sample for the most part. And then The Message is an original beat. You didn't hear that one before. Sucker MCs by Run DMC, which is the one you have listed here. That was the one where I'm pretty sure my dad was just like, his brain was going to explode. Like, I can't believe this stuff is getting popular. Get off my lawn.
Right. Run DMC and that style of beat was a whole nother level, even beyond the Sugar Hill Records type of thing.
Yeah.
And you're going through what I've got listed for hip hop for year 10, and I'm flexing a little bit. Planet Rock is year 9. For year 10, I've got Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 self-titled record, and then Sucker MCs is year 11. But it's all that time frame, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed as I was building this is that the genres started close enough that they evolved. Obviously, they're offset by 15 or 20 years, but the communication technology was quite similar throughout both their development, right? Because they both start in an era of parties and radio and vinyl. And they're both maturing. Like, we haven't even really got there. We're getting there with year 10 of hip hop, but you know, they come into the era of 8-track and cassette tape at the same time. Chronologically, they come into the CD era at the same time. So it was interesting to me that the communication technology, it's a pretty similar environment to the two genres. There is some offset, but it's not like rock came out in a totally different pre-vinyl era or something, you know?
Yeah, and it kind of prefaces the big jump that was coming for both genres and for technology at the time. Like, it's
perfect
right
transition,
before.
Ebony. Nope. Beautiful podcast transition. So year 15 blew my mind. Here we go. That's 66 for rock. Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. The Beatles' Revolver album. Aftermath by the Rolling Stones. Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan. So, like, the artistry has gone to a complete other universe.
Yeah, those are all knockout blows. Those are all knockout blows.
All time.
I have nothing. Yeah, I have absolutely nothing but good things to say about all of those albums. Period. Even Bob Dylan, and I am not a Bob Dylan guy at all, but that dude, that album, that's a good one.
So what do we see on the hip hop side? Incredible, right? Follow the Leader, Eric B. and Rakim. Straight Outta Compton by NWA. Critical Beatdown by Ultramagnetic MCs. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. Like, the parallels are this is the point where I was like, there is something to this.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. First off, that you even took the time to do this first is amazing. But it's even more amazing that, like, when you line those timelines up, the jump in technicality is basically the same, because you go from year 5 and year 10, that 10-year period, everybody's like, this is a box. These are some rocks. I wear some socks. Look at the clocks to I let the rhythm hit them, follow the leader, you know, like Paid in Full, Straight Outta Compton, just like you have listed. I mean, if we're talking 88, we also got to talk about EPMD, because for a lot of people outside of NWA, if EPMD doesn't make music, there is no West Coast rap sound. And I don't mean that to disrespect the West Coast at all, because they were doing things outside of NWA, but NWA was the ones that got pushed to the top, you know. And then you had Ice-T and a few other groups that came out, Compton's Most Wanted eventually. Like, it slowly built us into like where we got to Cypress Hill in, you know, the next 5-year period or whatever. But that first, that right there, what you've listed, I mean,
it's crazy,
nobody
right?
knew what. Yeah, like, I'm looking at it now, just like, dude, I didn't even think about that. Like, my mind is, because all that stuff came out then, you know. Like, I would still throw on Papa Large from the Ultramagnetic MCs and just watch Kool Keith go absolutely insane on that track, you know. And that wasn't happening, and even, to be honest, that wasn't even really happening in 87. You know, it was a lot more stuff, you know, like Special Ed and early versions of like members of Wu-Tang, members of A Tribe Called Quest, you know, I believe in like 88. That's what, 6 years before Illmatic came out. So Nas was like 13,
something like that.
I think 11, or somewhere between 11 and 13 at that time. So he's growing up listening to this as the son of a jazz artist and just writing down what he's seeing and doing. You know, then you have all the like pro-black rap that was out at the time. Public Enemy was like the flag holder, the flag bearer. But then you had like Poor Righteous Teachers, And whoa, God, what was that guy? Paris. He had an album called The Devil Made Me Do It. Uh, who else are we looking at? We're looking at X Clan, like all that, like pro black rap that was coming out that was kind of almost usurping the gangster rap that was coming out with,
Keep going. I got a hamstring cramp.
oh, it happens. But yeah, you had all that going on, and all of a sudden, to be a rapper, you had to be good with words. And there were some rappers that were good with words, but there were other rappers where what they were doing wasn't working. So they kind of had to fall to the back and find a place as like an elder statesman, especially in a genre like hip hop, where the youth is more stressed upon than like being an older MC. Like you can still go see a version of Leonard Skinner now. And though people will pay big money to see a version of Leonard Skinner, even if it's like one guy that's slow, like 15th cousins with Ronnie Van Zant, and he's the only person that has any connection to it. But you don't really see that with rap. And that's the one thing about hip hop in general that really kind of upsets me, because as we talked about the last time I was on here with you and Lou, these 49, 50, 51, 60-year-old rappers, what, LL Cool J was 58 when he put that album out last year or something like that. Big Daddy Kane is over 60 and still selling out shows all over the world. We just need more of that, and I'm glad that Wu-Tang kind of brought us into that. But
I think we're making progress on that. We need more, too. But I think we're making a little bit of progress on accepting and embracing the continued relevance of older hip hop artists.
Yeah, I think people are starting to realize that a lot of hip hop isn't for them, so they tend to gravitate back to the hip hop that is. Mm-hmm. And as that group of fans has gotten older, they embrace the hip hop that they grew up in. Like the kids that grew up on the Migos, in 20 years, they're going to want to hear another Migos. I don't necessarily need that as part of my like hip hop adventure or like life, but also I don't believe that the Migos were making music for me. Right. They were making music for their fans because they were young cats doing their thing.
And man, the Migos just make me want eggs and tortilla chips. And it's obviously not made for me either. I want to pull you back to like the difference between year 15 and year 10 for a second, because like one thing, this is partially due to my current age / our current age, but I think there's something real here too. Obviously younger people might feel a little different, but like these records in year 15, whether it's Blonde on Blonde or Straight Outta Compton, like I feel like, I mean, they're older, obviously, but you can put them on. They're not oldies. You know what I'm saying? Where the year 10 stuff, Please Mr. Postman, yes. Planet Rock, that's oldies. They're great.
Yes.
But it's oldies.
Exactly.
And I don't hear the year 15 rock or hip hop as oldies. Younger people might, but I don't.
Everything you mentioned in year 15 on the rock side and the hip hop side, all of those albums hold up.
They hold up.
All of them. Like I don't have a problem with any of the albums listed, because I can put them on as soon as we get done here. I can put them on and listen to them straight through. And it's like the first time I ever heard them. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of a lot of music like that, is that if you make good music, it's going to withstand the test of time. So.
Well, let me get to year 20, because year 20 is pretty cool too, right?
Oof, man, this is like Murderer's Row.
This is crazy. Year 20 for rock, that's 1971. Who's Next by The Who. 4 by Led Zeppelin. Master of Reality by Black Sabbath. Family Affair by Sly and the Family Stone. Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. I will tell you, Master of Reality is the one that sticks out. That's like, oh my God, I got goosebumps now just thinking about it. And Ozzy just passed away too. Like,
right.
That's the way to come into a genre. Like, I don't completely was like, I was a Led Zeppelin guy and I still am. I still listen to Led Zeppelin, but you give me the choice between Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, I'm going Sabbath every time. And that album was the one that made it really, really work out. Super dope.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you. I talk too much.
I was just going to move on. So the hip hop side for year 20, and obviously, I mean, we could list a million incredible records here, but Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers by Wu-Tang Clan, Midnight Marauders, Tribe Called Quest, Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg, Balloon Mind State by De La Soul. Just another, like, on both sides, the artistry is just in full bloom.
Yeah.
Just incredible stuff.
Something else that sticks out about year 20 is, and I think you'll get it when I say it, but year 20 is about the time in both of those genres where record labels saw the commodity of the music. And there's not a bad album on this list that you have on the hip hop or the rock side. And honestly, you have my favorite De La Soul album is Balloon Mind State, because of the way that it was in my life. That's 93. I was 16 years old. And De La Soul was kind of like my hip hop older brother, because I was the weird black kid. I was like the only black kid hanging out with white kids. And we were doing all kinds of reckless, wild stuff. And people were just like, we don't know what to do with you. And Balloon Mind State was the album where it was like, we know you don't know what to do with us, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're going to show growth while we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, starting to beef with the Jungle Brothers and basically the Native Tongues breaking up as a collective, like all of that happened with that album. But at the same time, those guys found their feet and they found their voice, and they stood firm in that. And that's amazing. That really honestly is what makes great art. If you can stand firm in your beliefs and make everybody else feel what you're feeling, you made a great record. Snoop did the same thing with Doggy Style. Like, nobody was rapping like that, telling you like really what's going on in the hood, like especially in the West Coast. You didn't know. Not all you knew was what NWA told you at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So to go from that to a really great storyteller who at the time was in the middle of honestly doing the shit he was talking about. Like he's not on a murder charge any other time in his life, but he's on a murder charge during that album. So like you're listening to a young man grow up and tell you about what's going on where he's at. And then with Midnight Marauders by A Tribe Called Quest, you're listening to a group of friends who are starting to realize that they don't necessarily have to be around each other all the time to be friends still. Because there's gaps in that album where you listen to it and it's like almost like, Speaker Box and The Love Below from Outkast, where Phife and Q-Tip are not on the same page. And there are solo songs on there where they're talking about entirely different things, but they still come back together to make great music. And that's a great album too. And then obviously, what else can you say about Enter the Wu-Tang? Jesus. I still know every word. It's 32 years later. And, we have an APB on an MC Killer. Looks like the work of a master. Like listening to Master Killer be on like a couple of songs and listen to You God be on a couple of songs. And then watching how the RZA just took a bunch of dudes who honestly probably didn't like each other in real life and make them realize that there's a bigger picture, and to put it in an album form like that to where you see the bigger picture too, and you see that everywhere is harsh. It's not just LA, it's also New York, it's also Chicago. There's quite a few other things where like that just brought a lot of people together. And it's the first hip hop album, Enter the Wu-Tang, that kind of brought the suburbs into the hood in that aspect. You know, that and Ready to Die from Biggie. Like, those two albums, you know New York when you listen to those two albums.
Yeah, so I, not in 93, but I knew about and heard those records in the following couple of years in small town Nebraska. Like, that's how deep they were crossing over.
Yeah, I mean, they were getting everywhere. And that is the same thing with Year 20 in rock. You know, Led Zeppelin had 3 albums out, but by that time, people were like, what can you do? And then they put out Led Zeppelin 4, and, you know, lawsuits be damned, and lawsuits besides the point on this. When I say this, there is no real way to understand the impact of Led Zeppelin without Led Zeppelin 4. Like, it's an unexplainable abnormality, the first 3 albums, because basically they're just, like I said about Oasis, they're just a blues cover band, the first 3 albums for the most part, just putting their own interpolations on it. But then 4 comes out and it's just like a straightforward, monstrous attempt at music. And it works out really well.
It was something different. Yeah, for sure. Now, these are special years, and I love your thoughts, but we can't talk about every individual record.
Fair.
or we'll be
sorry. The music nerd in me is coming out.
But that's good though, because I think that shows the value of this thesis. Messy as it is, I do think there's something here, and I think I want to go back to what you were saying about kind of the industry, because I had not made that connection, but I think you're right that okay, Year 20, the industry has figured out how to sell these genres.
Yeah.
And it took 20 years, but they got there. And I think that's going to show. We go through to Year 25. And these, while great, they're a little more commercial on both sides. Rock side, 1976, we've got Boston's self-titled debut, 2112 by Rush, Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, the single Saturday Night by the Bay City Rollers. I had to put that on just because, you know, the hook gets into your mind instantly. I don't even particularly like it, but you can hear it.
Oh, hearing it right now.
Yeah, sorry. Here, we'll jump over to the rap side. Volume 2, Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z. It's Dark and Hell is Hot by DMX. Equanimity by Outkast. Moment of Truth by Gangstar. Lyricist Lounge Volume 1 is 1998. That's Year 25 for hip-hop. Hello solid. Nasty by the Beastie Boys. Would have loved to get the Beastie Boys in earlier, but the release years didn't line up, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, like, incredible stuff, but more commercial, I think, on both sides, right?
Yep. I mean, by this time, they knew what they were looking for in both eras. They knew exactly what they were looking for. The transition up from Sly and the Family Stone in Year 20 to Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder in Year 25. They had definitely gotten the ball rolling. I kind of want to say that, like, Year 25 for both of those was just, now they know what they're looking for as an industry, and they're just taking the best of everything and then putting that out. So, and that's actually an underrated Beastie Boys album too. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, super fun. Holds up. Year 30 for rock, 1981. Escape by Journey. Ghost in the Machine by The Police. October by U2. Jesse's Girl, Rick Springfield. The Tide is High by Blondie. On the hip-hop side, this would be 2003. So, big record, Get Rich or Die Tryin' by 50 Cent. The Listening by Little Brother. Bazooka Tooth by Aesop Rock, that's kind of in there for me, personal favorite. Vaudeville Villain by MF Doom. And I wondered, I'm out on a limb here, but if I wanted to write a little thesis paper here, it would be about the parallels between punk and post-punk on the rock side, new wave, and the backpacker kind of rapidy rap movement on the hip hop side. Those, I'm stretching, but those are both kind of anti-mainstream movements that also achieve some pretty good success around year 30.
Yeah, the split happened for both genres where if you had a hot single, you were going to be a pretty popular rapper. And if you made good albums, you probably weren't going to get the reception that you should have. I see a lot of that on the rock side too. You know, like those albums were popular and good, but there were a lot more singles coming out that were good, that were getting bands noticed. Because I don't recall Rick Springfield having another hit as big as Jesse's Girl, but he did have one more hit, and that was about it.
I like what you said about the split. That really clarifies it for me. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, it's kind of like you had the Sex Pistols, but then you also had the Buzzcocks in Television, and then it splits off into like Public Image Limited, and Brian Ferry leaves Roxy Music for a little while, and you know, like little things that would happen in larger genres that didn't mean much to you unless you knew the artist already. So that's why I call it the split.
Year 35, that's 86 for rock, and I'm realizing there should be like, I don't know which REM record came out in 86, but I don't have it on here, and it probably should be here. But what I have...
I want to say it's Murmur.
That would be...
Sorry. REM is another one of those bands like Oasis where, yeah, there's a story behind me liking them too. It's a good story.
I need to know. It's Life's Rich Pageant.
Yes. Oh, Life's Rich Pageant. Okay, that's before Murmur. Gotcha. Yeah.
So, okay, 86. Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer. You can hear that one probably.
Yeah.
Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins from Top Gun. So the album So by Peter Gabriel. Mm-hmm. Van Halen 5150. Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi. Pin that. That's coming back in a second. And as we said, Life's Rich Pageant by REM. Year 35 on the hip-hop side, that's 2008. The Carter 3 by Lil Wayne. Rising Down by The Roots. Those two Roots records, Rising Down and the other one they did on that label, super good and underrated and kind of forgotten in my opinion. Just hungry.
Yeah.
And kind of late. It's mid-career now. At the time, it felt like it was late in their career. They just sound hungry on those records. I love them. The Renaissance by Q-Tip, a personal favorite. Tronic by Black Milk, another personal favorite. And very importantly, not a favorite, but very importantly, 808s and Heartbreak by Kanye West, 2008.
I have such a love-hate relationship with Kanye. But for me, the love stops at Late Registration. And I only say that because so many things happened after Late Registration came out that have led us to the Kanye that we have now. You know, so, but I will withhold that just before the simple fact that like, that's not what this is about.
Yeah, we can't I'll pin that we can talk about Kanye another time maybe and find hopefully an interesting angle on it. But I agree, the love for me stops at Late Registration. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is an incredible record, but so painful to listen to at this point. It's a really difficult listen. To me, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy sounds like a cry for help. And at this point, I kind of know it's not coming. So it is a tough listen.
Yep. I'd also like to add year 35 for rock music. And going into like the interior releases of the hair metal era and all that, a lot of cocaine music. Like that was kind of like the weird disco vibe that you got out of rock music was about the 83 through like Appetite for Destruction. Because all those dudes were just completely spun out from all the stories I've read and heard. And then on the hip hop side, I don't want to really say that it's the cocaine rap era because that's not really it's there and it's in full form, but it's not what those particular records that you have mentioned have to do with. But I mean, you still had the Clips putting out albums. You still had Dipset putting out albums. I believe there was another Jay-Z album, maybe even two, in between 30 and 35, or at least 25 and 35. So it was coming back more to reality rap, but storytelling, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, there probably should be a Clips record on here somewhere. I don't know how the years line up off the top of my head, but let's do the hair metal thing. So I've readjusted the visual slightly to kind of show that. I mentioned, so there's the Bon Jovi again. Slippery When Wet is 86.
Yeah.
Hair metal is kind of 83 to 87, 88 or so. So I've got on here Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil was 83. Dr. Feelgood was 89. So I guess 83 to 89 at least. Poison's big records were 86 and 88. White Snake's Reign of Terror was 87. So that is roughly around year 35. And to FD Signifier's point, he was calling the current era, and I like him and his videos. This is not like, I don't want to belabor this, but I was just curious, right, to see how that lined up. And I think metaphorically, I think he has a good point, but the years don't quite line up that way.
Yeah. He's not wrong, though. I mean,
he's not
really
wrong. The artistic point is valid. I was just curious to like flesh out the years behind that artistic point and see where it lined up. And it kind of doesn't, but I'm not saying that invalidates the artistic point.
No.
And
also, I'd like to let you know that I owned every Motley Crue and Poison album at one point in time or another in my life. Wow. I absolutely love hair metal. I'm talking
this is a safe space, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking like King's X, Dokken, Wasp. I was listening to all that early thrash, Exodus, early Metallica. I still think that Testament is a better band than Metallica, but Metallica just kind of had the hookup because they were first when it comes to thrash metal. But Shout at the Devil, me and my spirit twin, we still know pretty much every word between the two of us of that album. There's a lot of good stuff on that. There's a lot of good stuff from that era. It's just, once you realize how deep into drugs and partying and women they were, it kind of brings out the decadence of the opulence of the 80s. That was crazy Wall Street dudes blowing rails in bathrooms and next to dudes with long hair and makeup on and like really tight leather jeans that are going out there and they're competing for the same women and they have the exact same thing, but one guy's got a microphone and the other guy's got $1 million. So it's kind of the immediate thing that we deal with.
I'll admit the song Dr. Feelgood, I will rock to that. That's an undeniable bop.
Yeah.
But we're coming up
that Kill is a bop too.
We're coming up on a big transition for rock. Year 40, that's 91. Obviously, that's Nevermind by Nirvana. Metallica's Black self-titled album. 10 by Pearl Jam. A song that just a single that makes me think of the era. Right Here, Right Now by Jesus Jones. That's another one I'd put on just because I can hear it in my head instantly.
Ooh, Unbelievable by EMF.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
that was the same time too.
Unironically love Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So what's year 40 of rap? That's 2013. Nothing Was the Same by Drake. Acid Rap, Chance the Rapper. The Night's Gambit by Ka. Long Live ASAP by A$AP Rocky. Run the Jewels 1. And my observation here. Oh yeah, thanks. So yeah, my note here. I don't see anything paralleling Nevermind, really.
And a lot. And see, this is the part where I start to have that weird dilemma as an artist. By the time 2013 came around, hard copies were not the litmus test for how good you were. It was how many streams you got by 2013.
Yep.
And I think that is what killed a lot of the like, oh, we have another, we have the rap version of Nevermind coming out, is that you weren't made to search for music anymore. It's at your fingertips by 2013, That
is a great point. So you're kind of pulling out the flip side of something I was saying earlier about the similar communication technology. Here we have an example. In 91, we're still in a physical media world. That's year 40 for rock. Year 40 for hip hop, we've transitioned to an internet world. And maybe that kind of kept a Nirvana from happening.
If a Nirvana happened, it definitely happened in rock music, but it did not happen in hip hop. I really don't feel like anything in hip hop had a Nirvana type effect, honestly, at this point in time, until I would love to say that Run the Jewels was, because it was such a slap to the face of like the standard hip hop you were listening to at the time. But it was still a digital slap to the face. So you got past it faster. In 1991, you could buy the maxi single and get like the 10-minute jam session version of Smells Like Teen Spirit, where it's like, oh, this is the uncut, unrecorded version that they just put out here because they wanted to do it. And, you got songs that weren't released on albums and things like that. You still had maxi singles. And, I'm pretty sure we could go online right now and find 5 different remixes that are officially released by the label for Right Here, Right Now from Jesus Jones. Like 5 different remixes, including the original.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a lot of that by 2013, which kind of leads into that weird conspiracy theory thought of music became digitized because there wasn't enough money to make. So you had to keep people down because certain people were making money that society felt didn't deserve it. So, but that's a conspiracy theory. I don't want to get into that either, because that's a whole other rabbit hole that I've gone down and just gotten frustrated and angry about it. But you definitely didn't have like the hits.
I think you're onto something with Run the Jewels, and you had a complete thought about it. I had a quarter of a thought and couldn't find the words for it. But like, if you just take Run the Jewels and the sound could have been the template for a Nirvana-sized revolution potentially, right? Because it sounds like Run the Jewels 1 sounds like both Run DMC and The Future.
Yeah.
And somehow, maybe in a non-internet world, even though, RTJ was very internet-based, somehow in a different era, if that took over the mainstream the way Nirvana did, maybe you would have seen a Nirvana-sized revolution. That's super interesting.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say that if year 40 parallels were exactly the same, Run the Jewels is basically a full-on hip-hop version of Rage Against the Machine. And it would have that kind of a cultural impact had everything stayed the same and those timelines been the same, and we were still doing CDs and cassettes instead of doing digital downloads. Like I really feel that about that Run the Jewels album, because it holds up.
It hits so hard.
It really does. So
let's actually, okay. So this has been awesome. We're going to keep going, but listeners, we're going to let you go this week. We'll pick this up next week, I promise. Ebony and I are just going to go straight on through. We're going to let you go this week. We'll cut this into 2. Thank you for listening. Subscribe on your podcast app or on YouTube or both to make sure you catch part 2 next week. And we'll see you next time on Dat Fury Radio with the conclusion of this rock and hip-hop timeline theory exploration.
Nice.